Natal TV, professor?
Pronto, já estamos gravando. Eu só vou sair
Okay.
do estúdio.
All right. Thank you, Max. I'm very happy to have you here. It's been a while we haven't done that, right?
A little while, yeah, a little
Yeah.
while. Been busy with
Happy New Year, by the way. I know you.
yeah, the happiest.
Yeah,
Very
you have
happy.
been. Yeah, you were doing like during throughout the year. You were doing some conference. Yeah, I know that you were very busy, and I know that we were working some projects, but we didn't get to finish it.
Not all of
But
them. No.
but hopefully, this year we can actually finish those projects that we spoke about before previously. But today is something, as I had talked to you before about, mentioned previously, that we in Brazil we were trying now in a way to use the social media to educate, you know that behavioral mental health. You have been with us before. We did several podcasts in the OBGH, and you are aware the situation, the way that the population with behavioral mental health in Brazil is treated. And you know so the idea that when I brought up to you, and I thought it, that we will be talking about educating people about behavioral mental health, but in special schizophrenia. What is like a person to live with this condition and be able to live a healthy life with the right treatment? What are the challenges? What is the daily basis? How a person who is educated like yourself, that know your condition, that know your limitation, that know fully well your challenges. So how you, a place like a country like Brazil that is now it's brand new, talking about the behavioral mental health that everybody's learning right now, and it is still like very much stigmatized and marginalized the population who suffers from different condition of behavioral mental health. So you as a person that I have known you for nearly 2 years, and what can you tell me? What is schizophrenia? What is like to live with in schizophrenia and have the right treatment?
Okay, well, I mean, there's a lot there, right, to talk about. So,
Mhm.
um, I was thinking about this question because I've sort of approached this question a few times with some people. What's it like the everyday life?
Mhm.
On social media, we do these like
Mhm.
day in the life, right? So this is day in the life of schizophrenia. What is it like the day to day? And I like to describe it really as, I'm an astronaut. I'm an astronaut on a ship that is had maybe an explosion. It's broken, and it's trying to find its way back, safely. And I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Apollo 13 or heard of that voyage where the ship went up. There was an explosion, and although a lot was damaged, they're trying to find their way back home safely. And there was so much going on and so much wrong
I
with
have.
happening that it really was very difficult to get back. So I think of myself as an astronaut or some sort of special agent or someone who is in a very special precarious situation, and that if I'm not careful, almost on a moment by moment basis, from waking up to going to bed to moving around to getting something to drink, to sitting, to thinking, to making every decisions, that if I'm not extremely careful, and that I can make mistakes that can be setbacks in my life, either minor setbacks or larger setbacks, and there's just so much danger lurking around every corner for someone like me. If I'm not educated in my illness, and if I'm not careful about knowing my triggers and knowing what type of environmental stressors and life stressors could cause me an exacerbation of my illness and symptoms. Like it's a very difficult, precarious spot. I'm an astronaut on a tiny ship, not a lot of wiggle room for space. So, for give you a human example, right? When someone is near death, or maybe near death, right? A physician will come to you and say, there's a small physiological space for this person to survive. They're bumping up against all these issues in their body. And if we don't do the treatment in just the right way and figure out things in just the right manner, their body won't survive, because that physiological space to figure out solutions to heal isn't there. It's so limited. It's
So
so
it's ongoing.
ongoing, and there's not a lot of room to make mistakes. You know, a lot of people are blessed in their lives where, you know, they say the wrong thing, or they walk down the wrong path, or they have a distorted thought that may not be clear. You know, someone will correct them, or they'll have the insight to say, wait, that was off. What was I thinking there? I don't have those blessings. So, it's down to my everyday thinking, communication with people. I have to be very careful with how I communicate and what I do. I'll give you an example from just today. Okay. I have this professor who I went to school with, who knows me for a long time now, years, over 10 years. She knew me at Binghamton, later on, a long time, read my books, we're in constant communication. But to this day, since my break, today was a sharp reminder. She said, Max, because I sent her this message, just this message, forwarded it to her, no context whatsoever. I just gave her a message without any like context of what it meant or where it was coming from or anything like that. And I do that a lot with people, because my filter in my brain, because of my illness, is impaired. So I think that people either know more about what I'm saying and thinking than they actually do. You'll probably notice it yourself when you speak to me. I'll talk as if you know what I'm already talking about, and we're on the same page, but you're still trying to figure out what I'm talking about. I didn't give any context or an explanation of where I'm coming from. So she said today, Max, you have to be really, really careful about that, because you said something alarming, and I didn't mean it in an alarming way. I was talking about some disability rights advocate who I didn't get along with. And she said, well, I was very concerned. I thought this was an emergency. I'm like, no, I was telling you how I resolved it. But she's like, but you didn't say any of that, and I didn't know where you were coming from. So, that's just communication, basic communication. And that may be electronic, but it's with all of my communication.
But
lot of it.
but she knows you.
She knows me, but still, she has no way of verifying that there isn't a problem. She's not here. Yes. She knows that, because she's educated, that some people with what's going on with me speak and talk without context, and a lot of the time, and don't provide people all the information we think they already know, whether it's organic or what. When I was very sick, okay, I thought people could hear my thoughts. So that's where I think that comes from, and that's rooted in when I was very sick, people could hear my thoughts. I could transmit thoughts, transmit ideas.
That's what we thought about.
When I was very sick, yes. So I think during the healing process, that doesn't all get repaired. You can't go from that to perfectly healthy. No, so I think the remnants, the residual, what's left over is that I don't always give context. And sometimes I think people know more than they do.
But it's the difference, Max. What I see is the difference is that you know your condition, and you have learned, you are educated about it. My issue is, my problem is that in a country like Brazil, where mental illness, behavioral health, and any kind of condition is very much marginalized and discriminated, and the people does not have that understanding that you have, that I know that I have a condition. I know what are the symptoms. I know when I get triggered. I know what my triggers are. That's it's a very advanced, and it's like I can say that a lot of people there, they don't have that leisure.
It's an advantage, but it's not perfect. And I know where you're coming from. Like, Max, you are an advantage. You're educated into your illness. You're educated about what illness is. You're a social worker. So this should be second hat. But, there are breakthrough symptoms that, will come without warning, right? They just come, no trigger at all. They just They just happen, and I have to deal with them. There's also the thing where even though I am educated and aware, I still have damage that was done to my brain when the break happened. And those synapses, that tissue never got fully repaired, and some of it's just broken. So a lot of my insights and awareness about myself are sort of, they say, frozen in time. I think I can do some things that I can't because of the way I was. Because when it transmitted, it still thinks that I'm 21 again and I'm doing all these things. But really, I'm 35, had a break, and it's been 10 years. You know what I mean? So yeah, even though I know a lot and I'm educated, there's still limitations, and there are still disadvantages in all this stuff where if I'm not very careful, it could be a very potentially hazardous situation for me.
But even though you are medicated, you are take the right medication, you see the right provider, the right healthcare provider, you have a psychiatrist, you have a therapist that you see, and even though you have all this treatment that is the way it should be,
Right.
but you still feel and you know that it's still like some sort of a risk.
There is, because it's not, because the treatment isn't perfect, even though it's available. It's not perfect, and there was, like I said, it's not an illness, just pure illness where you heal it and it gets better. There are aspects of the organic tissue that just broke and won't heal. So what do you do with that? That's not going to get better. So you have to be okay with the impact on that loss of functioning in your life. You learn how to survive and deal with the fact that I can't do certain things because that just broke. So I can't make a right turn. I gotta make a left to go all the way around the block. You know what I mean? Like, so however you want to think about your ship or the way you steer your life, although treatment is there, it doesn't mean that the treatment is perfect and it's addressing all the issues, right? Like cancer treatment. Does chemo fix everything? No.
Definitely not.
No, right? No, and
No.
no, not at all. Not at all. It's getting better, but it's not perfect. And stuff gets through, right? Stuff metastasizes. Oh man, cancer is awful. But like, so is this, because it's so insidious you can't see it. And sometimes it just sneaks up on you. It'll just sneak up on you. That's what worries me about the folks you're talking about, right? Back home, in
Yeah.
Brazil, it's like,
No
I'm
treatment, no medication.
right,
Uh, the marginalization and stigmatization of the population uh, is to the point of absurdity, you know. And that's why I was thinking about this thing and said, I'm gonna talk to Max and he can help us out because people need to know this. People need to know that schizophrenia is a very serious condition, and in every level,
yeah,
even though you have the right treatment, you get the medication, you see the right providers, but you still feel you still have a risk, and you in some time even take the medication, it you still have some
sure. Breakthrough,
psychosis.
yeah, psychosis, mania, whatever, depression, any of those, affective or mood issues or cognitive issues can break through at any time. But back in Brazil, like, what's worse, right? Not having
Yes.
good, not having treatment that fixes everything, or having no
Yeah.
treatment at all. Like, so what do you do then? What do you do then when there really is no treatment, or the treatment is,
Dehumanize. That's
yeah,
why that's what they're doing. They dehumanize.
yeah,
They either call you a drug addict, or they would call you a person that has no place in society.
yeah,
And they would also throw you into to prison, to jail, and label you as a person that has committed crime, even though you have done nothing.
right. And
But your behavior, your hierarchical behavior, because you are having a psychosis or a breakdown, you know, and they, because of lack of understanding the situation, know where you come from, or where that person come from, they automatically assume that the person is either is under some sort of illegal substance, illegal drugs,
Right.
or they assume whatever God knows what, and you automatically become a person of disposable and marginalized, especially if you come from a very low income, if you are a person of color, if you are a person from a minority group. So this conversation that we have, my expectations that people start to open their minds and see, hey, behavioral mental health, it is a problem. There is no cure, but there is a way to treat it. And this population, they deserve to be treated. This population, we can help them because mental illness does not choose anyone.
No.
It just happened. And the lack of information is that when I think about you, I see like I always write it down. I always write to you that you're an amazing person because you function in society. You have a serious condition, but you function in society. You have great writing. You have book. You have written books. You have a blog, and so how can you how can you use your experience to help us in Brazil?
Sure.
How
Well,
can you?
you can think right away and taking a little less credit to me and a little bit to the people around me, right? I have great support. I have family, very, very supportive family. My parents, I've honored them in some of my writing. I think they should be studied, actually, at least and really, truly, as caregivers and people who've done the right thing for someone with a very severe and persistent illness. A lot of caregivers don't know what to do. There are organizations that teach people how to be like better, caretakers. So I don't know why no one's coming and calling my parents and saying, we got to get you on the radio, or we got to get you, write about you, and talk about what you've done for your son that's been so successful. Because
If,
really, it can be a model for other families and other parents. God only knows, I've seen and worked with professionally parents that don't know what to do, parents that have given up, parents just doing the wrong thing. My parents have done the right thing, maybe not all the time, but certainly enough where I've been supported in just about any one of my endeavors. They've supported my self determination to do what I want to do for myself and what's best for me, and they've always supported my treatment, bar none, from the beginning to the end. From when I got out of the hospital originally after my break, driving back and forth to treatment to get my injections, waiting with me, sitting with me, in the waiting room. There was no one else's parents there. It was all these mental patients, right, pacing around, sitting around, and me and
yes.
my parents. My parents were there. No one else's parents were sitting with them in
What
the
amazing.
in
What
the lobby,
amazing.
visit after visit for years, maybe 5, 6 years. And they did that through all my treatment. Every time I had to go to the ER for an injection, my dad would go with me. He'd sit with me in the ER. We'd talk. We'd have a conversation. Catch up. It'd be a great time for us time, but also time for me to get what I needed. And they would make sure that I just did not go because I didn't want to be there. But they would go with me and support me in being there, and they'd be present for me while they were there. Um, you know, because people do have a habit of walking out when things get difficult. They get stressed. Fuck it, I'm out of here. They'll leave the ER. They won't get their shot. Never did that. Never did that. Because I always had people, my dad would either drive me up or sit with me. And, he'd be there in the chair and we'd be talking until the doctor came and I'd finally get my shot, and they've been there every step of the way, just about all aspects of my treatment. So that's my parents for number one. And my friends, my good friends, um, who've been there in the ways they can be there. I think friendship, when you have a severe mental health disorder, and with mental health disorders in general, it's really hard to know how to be a friend to someone with a mental health disorder. That's just a thing. It's really hard. They've written articles about that. How do you be a good friend to someone who's getting sick and relapsing? Right? Are you there for them always? Are you there for them a
Or
little?
someone who has, how to be a good friend, how to recognize the signs when he or
When
she
you
is
might need
having
help, Right.
having the psychosis. How do I know if he's right or he's not?
And then what do you do when you know that, right?
Is
That's a whole other thing
exactly.
too. So like, it's weird because like even like I don't want to say minor, but less severe illnesses or acute illnesses, acute depression, acute anxiety, you know a little bit more about how to support your friend. Oh, he's a little
Yes,
anxious,
yeah.
you know a little bit more. But when it's a insight oriented like schizophrenia where you get psychotic and psychosis where there's so many limitations in your self-awareness of how you're sick, it's even harder to help your friend. I give you a little story, all right? So, I've read a couple books. Some of them are more about me, and some of them are more about my friends and their support and lack of support when I was in college, right?
Mhm.
So, I was talking with his friend who was upset with how he was characterized in the book.
Oh,
And he wrote to me personally. He said, um, you know, I wasn't in charge of your mental health. You're in charge of your mental health, and I'm, and you still talk to me today. So obviously, you get, going on and on and on. And I really felt like, I got where he was coming from. He should. And I wasn't blaming him for my illness. I was saying, that for some of these severe mental health disorders, when someone is sick, or like the Justice Center, right? When there's like a person who's vulnerable, we help them as a society,
exactly. That's
right?
I think that's what I think. I think that we should have a justice center in Brazil for people
Totally,
with behavior
totally.
mental health.
Totally. Everywhere though.
Yeah,
I always say if you're really that sick and disordered, it's this everyone should band around you and help you, not pick your pocket, but take you to the ER. That's a thing. So like I said to my friend, listen, I was very sick and you were what you were. You were young, you were this, you were that. I don't blame you for anything, but let's be real. You didn't exactly coach me through my illness and be there, throughout my recovery. Some of my
yes,
friends have been. I stay in contact with some of them, and there's always this ongoing conversation about how involved they should be or shouldn't be, what to do in times of crisis. Some of them have my parents' number, some of them don't, and some of them want it, some of them don't. Some of them have left when I've relapsed. I haven't had big relapses. Maybe I'll just get a little bit more out of it from time to time, but enough so that people walk away. Trust me, Anna, it doesn't take a lot for people to walk away. You don't have to become floridly psychotic for someone to walk away.
I
You
know,
can
I
just say the
know.
wrong thing. Just say
Yes,
the wrong thing. That's it. I don't have to be. Blah, 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 blah. I
but
could literally,
but but that is not like that you. I said, oh, he's not well.
right?
That's not relevant. I understand that
Yeah,
you're not well, and that conversation the person can have that conversation all the time when you are well, when you are
right.
stable.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
the way I see it.
that people can do that. That's the thing too. Like I have friends that won't communicate once they know I'm sick and I'm not doing well. It'll just stop, and they won't communicate, and they'll pick it up when they hear through another friend I'm better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is okay. I get why that's better because it doesn't allow me to make mistakes and say things I shouldn't, right? And for it to get out of control. But it also removes any sort of support in the moment that I might have from that friend. They're not there, right?
It
They
is
can't be
true.
there to help. That's the thing though, right? That's
But
what
yeah, but the good thing is that your parents were well educated about it because where you telling me that family support for someone who suffers from a severe mental illness, a condition like the schizophrenia,
right.
family support is fundamental. It's very, very important. Family and
Critical.
friends support is critical for the person recuperation and treatment. And
Family's
knowing
great.
that, and knowing that the schizophrenia itself, it's not something that you can cure, you can control with medication and the right treatment,
So
but it's something for life.
yes, it's something for life. Well, that's why that's the problem though. When I say family support's great, family support's great when you're someone like me, or maybe a little older, who is a son or daughter who got out of the hospital 10, 20, 30 years maybe, but then your parents die. They die eventually. People die. Family support dies. It dies off. Maybe
Yes.
my parents could get sick. It's not going to be around forever. And a big part of my recovery has been planning for the future. just like planning and preparedness of my symptoms, I always plan and have been for a long time now on what to do when my parents aren't around anymore. We've had that conversation 15 years ago. How sad and sobering is it for a 25-year-old to sit down and talk with their parents about, well, I'm really sick. You guys aren't going to be around forever, and I'm going to be here still sick. And what do I do? That's a
Build a
horrible
network, build a
build a
network of
network.
friendship.
That's what I do. That's what I'm doing. I build networks. I learn how to be, but the bottom line is you have to learn how to be more independent.
Is yes,
Okay.
independency is very important. It's
In all
fundamental.
domains, financially, in terms of treatment, getting back and forth to treatment without help or needing someone's help, right? I shouldn't have to be reliant on Joe next door to give me 2 quarters to get to the bus. I need to have money to get to the bus. I need my own, I need to get from point A to point B. I need access
By
to food,
yourself.
stable housing. I need to be able to negotiate all these aspects of living on my own without calling somebody or being reliant on guidance. That's
But
very
also, at the same time, you have so far, you know what it triggers you. You know more or less, all this experience when you are not well and when you are well. Even with medication, sometimes you may have not so good days,
right.
right? And we live here in a society in the USA that people are more understanding about mental illness. There's a huge movement that support because we understand that people with behavioral mental health history, they are a vulnerable population, and even if you make mistakes or if you say something that someone may not like, but you are in a moment of vulnerability, and that is not what is happening in the culture and in the history of Brazil right now. And this conversation we having, my expectation that it will help people that to understand more. That's why when we always talk, is my thing is I want people to be able to be treated with respect and dignity and get the right treatment, the support that they need. Like the story about my nephew who has schizophrenia. We didn't know he had a schizophrenia. So you have the right tools. You have had this long way, and you live by yourself. To me, you seem that you are very independent. You live in your own apartment, you have your own job, you have your own blog, you write, you have written some books. For me, you are an amazing person. You have accomplished a lot. I know that is not easy to face, to live with such a condition, but you have done amazing things. It is, I mean, I understand your concerns
Oh,
because,
sure.
you know, right?
Yeah.
But comparing your condition and your situation with millions of Brazilians,
Right.
hundreds of Brazilians who have it, what would you say that you in a better place than they are because
Well,
you have the information, you
I
have the resources.
think information one. I mean, I also, even if I didn't have this special extra education, you know what I mean. And let's say I never went back and became a social worker or therapist. I was just educated. I went to college, right? You know, um, people like that, or even skilled professionals in their field, whatever they do, tradesmen, they're intelligent enough to know what things are when a doctor speaks to them, right? As long as the doctor is telling them what's real and giving them real information, usually people can follow generally and understand what they're saying. So, I think that's why, if we had better, more understanding about what this really is at the professional level, not just education, but the professionals out there doing the work, if they're able to teach and explain through psychoeducation what's really happening with their families, that would be helpful. But I'm also blessed here in New York with a few different things that are game changers, and they can easily be um, reconfigured and taken to other areas of the world. But I live in a place where I'm familiar with. Okay, I've been in Yonkers, Westchester, New York, my whole life. If I moved to another city or town, it wouldn't. I can't even tell you. Like, I need to know where everything is at all times. I need to know where the 24-hour this is, the 24-hour that. I need to know where all my resources are at all times throughout the state. Okay, I know where, from here up to Binghamton, up to Buffalo, in New York, in New Jersey. I know where things are and how to access them. All right, it's important when someone's very sick, and doesn't have all their stuff about them, to know where to get things and retrieve them if necessary without incident. They know what bus route to take, right? They know how to get from point A to point B without winding up in jail or getting picked up by the cops or getting mugged. When I first got sick, okay, I was driving from New York up to Binghamton. I stopped off for gas in Paterson, New Jersey. All right, and I was mugged and assaulted. Okay, that's because I didn't know what Paterson was, and I didn't know it was a bad area to stay away from. Horrible, dangerous place to go at certain times. All right, very, very rough. All right, I woke up in the hospital surrounded by family. The point is, if I had known that about that area, right, during my crazy mania back and forth around the state, I would know not to go there.
Oh, I see it.
So, like, when you know your surroundings and your environment very, very well, almost to the point where you can map it out on paper, okay, that's going to help you. So, like, in Brazil, right, or any other area of the world where someone is dealing with this sort of illness, it's important for people to know their environment, know where to go, know where the pharmacy is, know where the gas station, all these aspects of living. They need to have it mapped out and charted. They can't be, I don't suggest that people are very sick move and travel around the world, and go from all around here and there. No,
I
they
know
get
what you
lost.
mean.
Their passport would go. By the time they got there, they wouldn't have any underwear. Like, it'd be a disaster. I can't even get from one side of the room to the other without losing something. Okay, so like, it's very common for people like me for that to happen. So, like, wherever you are, know where you are and know what's there, know what the dangers are, know where the threats are.
So what you're saying is that a person with a condition as the one you have and the ones that my nephew have, is that they should know all the resources in the neighborhood where they live or the state where they live. So because they learn to live independently, and not only that, that because the condition is so serious that you don't know when it's going to happen. You don't know when you're going to have a psychosis or a breakdown, even though you are in the right, you are having the right treatment, the right medication, but that it doesn't mean that you're not going to have some sort of reaction or some sort of.
Sure. And knowing your environment so well that you can access whatever you need when you need it is only going to help you that much more, right? And knowing
Yes.
what the dangers are, right? You don't want to go down that area when you're not feeling well, or you don't want to walk around that path because it's not safe there. And if you don't know that and you're sick and you get knocked out, you're going to get even more psychotic, because, like, not only you're knocked out on the ground and you're missing teeth, but you're floridly psychotic. How's that going to process in your mind, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be
And yeah, but the thing is, if you're fully psychotic, in a culture where the way things are right now, and things that may not turns out really good for you, because you can be mistaken for a person who is under some sort of substance misuse, that you would be called horrible names, and you would even get arrested,
Sure. That's why you want to know
you would get booked.
you want to know where your authority figures are, right? You want to know who these people are, their usual routes. Like, when I was even in the United States, I know where police are. I know where they park their cars. I know where they're lurking. I know they park the car there. They hang out at that place. At certain hours, they take certain routes, do a patrol, come back. I know these things. I've come to learn them over time because I live this 24-hour, sometimes, cycle in my life. I go around the clock at times, and I've had to learn where, at certain hours of the night, where the police are, or where the criminals are, or their routes, or or where the trafficking is, or where it's not, and where, you know what I mean. So like, even in Brazil, although you can get all these things can happen, knowing a little bit more about these dangers that you're talking about, where they are and how prevalent they are, the risks, it's only going to help you more, even if you are sick, because knowledge is power. And no
Yeah.
matter how disordered you are, being in a safer spot is only going to help you that much more
Yes.
when you're not feeling well.
Actually, I also think that because behavioral mental health, especially schizophrenia and bipolar disorder and other serious illness, the sick illness of the mind, it's so like in Brazil, it's like a taboo. I think also it lacks certain of like awareness. It should be like it should have some sort of a campaign, educational campaign on TV or on the social media to educate the community, especially in particular those community on the countryside that start educating people what is these conditions, what are mental illness, how what is the characteristic, what are the how the people behave, because this cannot be keep happen, because that happened. My nephew was not the only person who has been mistaken, you know, for mistake, have a breakdown with schizophrenia and was mistake by for a criminal. So this happens throughout the country. Then what I'm gathering from you is that we need to know, we need all the support that we can have. We need to educate ourselves.
Yeah.
If you like, you are a lucky one because your parents were well educated, they were very supportive. Your friends, had an open mind. But in a community where you live, if you live in a community that only 25 people, 24 people, and they are not well educated, they are not literate. So what do you do?
Well,
You
are
know,
they? I have to ask you then. Are they connected? Is there any sort of community, even though they're not educated or they're not? It's rural or this or that. Do they know each other? Do they look out for each other? You know what I mean? Like, I've lived in rural areas and been in relationships with very rural people, but there was a sense of community. Right? People looked out for one another. If they saw someone walking, they would drive by and say, "Are you okay? You know what's going on here?" They would see something out of place, they'd go to investigate it. So like, you know, even though people may not have that level of education or that all these resources around them, they have to have this sense of community and to look at what things are out of place, to investigate what's going on there. Because I think in rural areas there's always more of a danger to people falling through the cracks, because it's wide open. It's wide open. And it's just so much, and you can get, that's why, like, there's more visibility in the city, right? Upstate, it's like, or anywhere, in other countries where there's not a lot there, things can disappear, right? That's why people disappear in our, right?
yeah,
And they get trafficked, and that's where uh that's where you go to get lost, or that's how people disappear.
yeah. It,
That's
it, 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 it it is true, but in the case, what happened with my nephew was he was yanked out of the home without anybody, without any family member's permission, and he was only 17 years old. They took him out of they took him out of the home and never told anybody what they did to him. It's been a year, and he is a person with schizophrenia. He's a person, he has intellectual disability. Like, he is 17 years old, but he has a mind, a understand of 13 years old person. So what the government agency did, the agents took him from home, no letting anybody know what happened, why they were doing, why they did it, where they took him. And now, and still today, we don't know why. That's why I decided, let's do this, because Max is a person who has all this experience that he can educate us.
Sure. Well, that's what we talked about, right? When
Yeah.
people aren't transparent and they don't give you explanations for their intervention,
No, no,
right? Then that's not a good sign, right? But
no.
also, um, you know, that's why also people that aren't in a good spot has to also be careful about what they say and how they say it in the
Yes.
vibe that they put out there. When I was very young, I made comments when I was in high school that were very alarming and threatening, and I didn't know that they were, but enough so where the social worker called the police, and the police showed up at my parents' home. So you know what I mean? Like if we don't give the authorities, right, or these these bodies of power that can enter our homes and take us away by force the license to do it, they can't do it. You know, there's certain language that we use as when we're sick that triggers these interventions, right? Um,
Yeah, intervention.
Either I want to die or whatever. You know,
Yeah.
now the police or the
But
ambulance.
he never did none of these. None of this happened. Actually, what you know is that a neighbor called and said something, but he didn't have that erratic behave.
Right?
He
Why the
was
neighbor call?
he was just, yeah, he was just a little bit agitated
So
because he was without medication.
the neighbor was concerned.
No, the neighbor did that on purpose because he was not a threat. The neighbor did that, from what you know, he did on purpose because he wants to
Oh,
cause harm to him.
okay. All right.
So,
So well, that's the whole thing there. Like where
yeah,
when you have other people involved,
yeah,
and other people that are getting involved, that
yeah,
can complicate,
yeah.
the misunderstanding of behaviors and
It's
what they
because they don't understand, they don't
exactly.
understand the realness.
Sure, yeah,
When he was having agitated, he was agitated, and they did understand.
yeah. That's why I said back to community, right? Not
Yes.
it's not looking around just to see if a car is parked on the side of the road that shouldn't. It's also checking to see if this person is speaking in ways that are making sense, and if they're not, knowing how to help them. I'll tell you, upstate New York, these rural folks are great at fixing a truck when it's broken, but you know, yeah, all New York hates me right now, but you know, they can fix a truck if it's broken. They know how to fix a Chevy, but when a mind is broke, they don't know what to do. They don't know. They're lost,
You
totally
got my
lost.
point. You got
You
my
know,
point.
right?
Okay, you got my point.
So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So we have to give people, all those resources like a checklist. You know, it's got to go maybe back to the growing
Yeah,
up and
but the problem
primary school,
is that
whatever.
it yeah, but the problem is that it's still very much like very stigmatized. People, they don't talk about. If you have, especially where this happened, if you have a family member who has such a serious mental illness like schizophrenia, they will not talk about it. They will try to get the medicate, the person treatment, whatever they can get, but they will not talk about it
Maybe
because
family with sick children. You mean? Or,
anybody,
well, yeah,
anybody who has a family member, they
sure,
want they don't want to talk
sure,
about, they don't want to get
sure.
educated, they don't want to dive into it, they
But
want
for
to hide it.
it's yes, but not always for the wrong reasons. Sometimes for the right reasons. It's very complicated. Even my parents, they never shared with their friends. They have a lot of friends. My parents have friends, right? More than I do, and 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 like up until like I started being vocal about my illness, my parents' friends had no idea how involved in my anything about my illness. Even my cousin, we started talking like a couple of years ago. She came up, she's like, Max, I had no idea any of this was going on with you. Your mom didn't say a thing. All right.
Oh my
Now,
goodness.
oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's for a few reasons. One, respect for me, right?
Yeah, it's
My
the privacy.
so it's business, right?
Yeah,
But also, I'm sure my mom felt bad that this was my situation, and she didn't want to talk about negative things with her friends. But also, it's we do have to sort of get out of this thinking because, like, you know, bad doesn't always have to be something we don't share, and
yeah,
and illness doesn't have to be something that's like scuffed under the rug or just managed.
and
We
it,
need
it shouldn't be hidden
we
because
need
it
to
can affect
talk about a
anybody.
lot more than we do. Bottom line, we need to talk about a lot more than we do, and about
Yes.
a lot of aspects of our lives, because because like there's so much more to life than talking about who's on People Magazine or who's in.
Yeah,
You know
and
what I
and
mean?
and,
Like,
and, yeah, and from what we know and we have seen it, not all psychiatrists know how to treat schizophrenia or bipolar. Not all psychiatrists know everything about the condition.
that's true.
And
That's
I have
true.
seen it, I have seen on treatment team where you have several psychiatrists, you have nurses, you have social workers, you have a different medical team, the behavioral mental health state hospital. You sit there and you listen to them. They try to they try to give the patient different medication to see which one is going to work.
Right. Yeah.
Even themselves, they try to
But they
different
don't know.
medication because they don't know which one is going to
They don't
work.
know. They don't know. And
So
that's not, at least, I mean, at least hopefully they know the class of meds, but like, and hopefully they know what's going on with the person. But you don't know how a body is going to
react.
react or tolerate some of these meds. And for you, as you know, after 10 years, I've transitioned from Abilify to Genome. I was on Abilify for 10 years. 10 years.
It
10
works for you,
years.
right, Vilify?
It was great stuff. But it's not a long-term med over the course of 30 years because you put on weight over time. It messes
I
with your
know.
metabolism. A lot of issues with it. So, like, the idea is you go on meds that over time may not be as powerful, but over time you know more. So you're
Yes.
able to do more for yourself, rely on the med less, and hopefully have less destruction to your body.
And you
And
know what it works and what it's not.
right, yeah. So like, when I start gin on, I'm like, wow, if I don't get sleep after 2 days, I get manic as hell. I'm telling you, like Abilify, I could be up for a week and my mood wouldn't elevate. If I don't get 2 nights of sleep on Genone, I'm gone. I am gone. I can't talk anymore. Blah, 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 blah. I'm manic and I need
And
adult.
nobody talks about the side effect of medication.
Yeah, no one does because there's so few options that it's just, I think, so depressing to think that this is your only option and these are all the shit that is going to go wrong with it. Like who wants to think about that there's not a lot of options, and even with those options, a lot can go wrong. It's like not a good situation, and like it's not a good situation. I don't have there's so few choices on what meds to take, and just about all of them cause a litany of problems. Oh, it's just not a good way of thinking about things because the situation is so abysmal with treatment, and medication.
But in America, the doctors they're a little bit open minded. They talk to you about the medication, and even when you get the medication, you get all this whole paper that explains to you the side effects. It tells you exactly what you're taking, and
Right.
that is a way to create awareness and educate the patient what they are
Sure.
putting into their bodies. So in certain countries, they don't have that. So from what I'm gathering from all your experience is that there is a need of a lot of education,
On education,
information,
regulation,
awareness,
transparency, all that.
regulation, tools, because not only the doctor should sit with the patient and say, if you have your conditions, this is B and Z. So I'm prescribing this medication for that. Let's try that. It's not like, oh, I'm gonna prescribe this. This is gonna help you. No, it doesn't help. It helps to control, not to cure, because we know there is no cure.
Yeah.
But the person, you learn how to live with that condition, how to manage it, is going to get educated. You should learn about your own condition, what it triggers you, what it's not. When are you having some sort of psychosis that you are starting having a meltdown? So you should learn that. So this should be like a partnership. Work with the doctors and the patient at the same time, and the family support. So it should have like a lot of people involved in the community. So you had all that network of support. I'm talking about here people who has none of that.
They need to build it like I built it. It wasn't given to me. I built it. I was a 21-year-old, a sarcastic, arrogant 21-year-old out of college, who didn't even wasn't sure if he finished college. I was someone you wouldn't meet, and like you wouldn't like me if you knew me. Yeah, all right. No, not a lot of people did, and thank God my friends did, but that was just about it. I mean, like I was like between like my arrogant. Oh man, I was a disaster. But like the point is, I had to quickly learn how to turn that around and to create something. to become like an entrepreneur of my own health and healing. Know what what was really important in terms of building these networks. Networks, please. I would burn bridges left and right, and I had to learn
Oh my God.
overnight. I had to learn overnight how to make lasting friendships with professionals, providers, people in the community. Even now, I'm still learning. I'm learning how to reach out to people in different states and advocates.
I have no problem talking to you all the time. We talk all the time.
Yeah, right. And right. You're another example of someone I met through one of my professional endeavors. Right,
Exactly.
reaching out, learning, building a network.
That's why I'll tell you, I
And
believe that you can be a powerful voice for my people in Brazil.
sure, I hope I can give. I hope we have be able to translate
Yeah.
these resources in ways that make sense to people back home. I think they can. I don't look. My
So
apartment
we
or
are
I
almost
live would be different, but we all have the same issues. We have to know what the currency is.
only the difference that the difference of culture and the language, but we have the same problems.
Yes.
We are almost about I think about almost about an hour, and I don't want to stand too long because we can get tired, and I want to be for people to be able to, to enjoy our work. But Max, I think that to me, you are a role model, and I believe that you can be a role model for all the Brazilians, the population who needs that help, who needs to hear that you can't make by yourself. You need the support starting from home. Schizophrenia is a very serious mental illness, does not have a cure, but does have treatment. If you get the right treatment, you can live a healthy life, a decent life. It doesn't mean that you're not gonna have a breakdown, that you're not gonna have a psychosis, because even though you are taking the medication, that still can happen.
But
So
less hopefully over time and less severe over time.
it
That's
less severe over time, but you still have those symptoms.
sure.
But you can learn to live with that. It's a lifetime change event. It's not like you're gonna, oh, take this and you'll fix it. No. So your experience, it is really amazing when I read the mental health, when I read those articles. To me, it is very enlightened. It's very educated. And I think that we're gonna keep doing this great work that we're doing. I hope we can count on you, me and Professor Marcelo in Brazil. He's behind the scenes right now.
Yes.
So, what are your last consideration? What you would like to say?
Like you said, it's an effort, and I didn't always have the skills or mindset to be able to do what I do now. I had to learn how to change and adapt, and learning how to be okay with change, and knowing that tomorrow's going to have to look totally different than today, and then I'm going to have to pick up a new skill on Thursday, then Friday. It's just part of the game. As humans, we all evolve, right? When you have this illness, you just have to evolve a little bit faster, all right, and on your own terms, and be more creative about what you do to make things easier for your own survival and safer. But humans all do that. You just have to do that a little bit more acutely, and given this new circumstance. But it's like anything else. You have the potential for success, and whatever I can do to help you folks get there. Email me, contact me, whatever you need to
I
do.
will.
Please do so. I'm here to help.
Thank you, Max. This is the VL. We are doing this interview through the VL, with Professor Marcelo's new work that he's doing, and it's something that we are trying to. This tool we are trying to use to help, the population and everybody else, and we are just started. And I know we have you on board, and I appreciate it that you're here tomorrow. You took the time. I thank you very much. Happy New Year, and we
Yeah,
will talk soon.
awesome, pleasure.
So, Professor Marcelo, o que você achou o que você achou da entrevista? Ficou bacana.